Hey guys, this is your host Thomas Tyree here from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 130 for you guys today. And to kick off the Combat Series, we'll start off in the sport of boxing, and I'll be sharing my fight summary on the fight that took place last night in the sport of boxing between Cruz and Lamont Roach. So, last night in the sport of boxing, these two respective fighters shared the ring with each other on the final PBC pay-per-view event of the calendar year 2025. Cruz retained his WBC super lightweight title by majority draw. The fight ended in a majority draw. One judge had the fight scored 115-111 in favor of Cruz. Two judges scored the fight 113-113 as a draw, with the decision coming in as a majority draw. With a majority draw, that means the interim champion, or if this was a real championship fight, the champion walks away with their title. So Cruz still remains the WBC's interim super lightweight champion. My thoughts on the fight. Honestly, I think this is the wrong decision. Now, I understand both sides if you had Cruz winning and Lamont Roach winning. But I do believe that Lamont Roach should have got his hand raised and should have won the fight by split decision against Cruz. I had the fight scored 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Lamont Roach. I think Lamont Roach honestly pulled away in the second half of the fight. I think in the beginning part of the fight, for the first 4 out of 5 rounds, Cruz won those rounds. But then the second half of the fight, Lamont Roach pulled away, in my opinion. Even with the huge knockdown that Cruz scored on Lamont Roach in the third round, I scored that a 10-8 round for Cruz. But then you look at the point deduction that the referee had on Cruz before the second half of the fight. That was huge and swung my opinion to believe that Lamont Roach won based off of the point deduction and the way how Lamont Roach controlled the second half of the fight. And I only think Lamont Roach lost the 12th round in the second half of that fight between himself and Cruz last night. But I think Lamont Roach won the fight due to landing more punches. He basically led in every category, landing more punches, more jabs. Cruz, for people that believe he won, he only landed under 10 punches per round from round 6 through 10. How's that good enough to win a close competitive fight? And honestly, from round 6 to 11, I had Lamont Roach winning. I gave the final round to Cruz in the 12th round. Now, Lamont Roach made good adjustments, and I think he pulled away in this fight. I think he landed the more significant strikes as the fight went on. I think he outboxed Cruz using the jab, winning the counter-punching battle, frustrating Cruz to the point where the man was blocking off his back foot. When the hell did we ever see Pitbull Cruz fight or attempt to fight off the back foot, not being the aggressor, fighting his opponents coming forward? The man was frustrated in that boxing ring. We all saw it. No matter who you're a fan of, unbiased opinions aside, you saw different characteristics that Cruz was doing due to the fact that he was being handicapped of his best attributes in the ring at times against Lamont Roach. Scoring or landing under 10 punches per round from round 6 to 10, that doesn't even sound right for Cruz, an aggressive fighter that only knows how to fight one way. I'm not saying he's a one-dimensional fighter, but in a way he is. That's all he does. When you seen the man sticking out his tongue, when you seen him doing that, that wasn't to be a fan favorite because the fight was in San Antonio, Texas. There was a big Mexican fan base there last night, and that's great for the sport of boxing because Mexican fans or any fans out there are great for the sport of boxing. But the fact Cruz did not do that to please the crowd. He did that because he was frustrated and he wasn't fighting Lamont Roach the way that he wanted to in the second half of that fight last night until the end of the 10th, the end of the 11th, and in the 12th and final round. So I think Lamont Roach did enough. Again, was effective with the jab, won the counter-punching battle. The check left hook, I told you guys that Lamont Roach has a good check left hook shot. It's not like a flashy check left hook like Ryan Garcia to knock opponents out, but it's effective to make his opponents respect his power. And you saw all those things, all those attributes, everything come out of Lamont Roach's arsenal in his toolbox last night against Cruz. I think he also fought well in different lateral movements that frustrate Cruz. I told you guys that that man does not have good footwork. If he has to fight in different lateral movements, he doesn't have successful outings or successful rounds in the ring because he's not accustomed to doing that. He only fights one way, and that's fighting coming forward. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying in terms of landing impactful shots, landing more punches, leading in every category, how could you guys say that Lamont Roach didn't win this fight? And I give Lamont Roach credit. I give Isaac Cruz credit because both of them made this fight entertaining. They both fought in the pocket a lot during this fight. There was no running from either opponent. Both fighters were giving us a show to watch for the final PBC pay-per-view event of the year. So, you could see Isaac Cruz's frustration by Lamont Roach boxing style in the pocket. It was just too much for Isaac Cruz to handle in sequences of the fight. Now, to some, yes, the referee might have been a little biased. I won't lie about that. The referee might have been a little biased because the holding, Isaac Cruz was doing that. The clinching, he was doing that. But both fighters were fighting a little bit dirty at times. If you guys remember, I think it was in the 4th or 5th round where both fighters were clinching each other. Actually, it was in the 4th round. Both fighters were clinching each other. And then Lamont Roach punched Isaac Cruz while they were being clinched. And the referee gave Lamont Roach a slap on the wrist type of warning. And that's a dirty tactic. You cannot do that. But I think the referee's patience for Isaac Cruz got a little out of control. At times, Isaac Cruz accidentally headbutted Lamont Roach when they were both going in, trying to clinch each other. There was another sequence where, actually during the 3rd round, the sequence where Isaac Cruz scored the knockdown where he decked Lamont Roach, and Lamont Roach could not take the hit. He got hit so hard, the man started backpedaling. But as he was backpedaling, either the right or left glove touched the canvas. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's 101 boxing. If your glove touches the canvas in any fashion while you're getting hit, that's considered a knockdown. So while Cruz was running after Lamont Roach like we're in a Tom and Jerry cartoon, the referee came in, and casuals would say Isaac Cruz was saved by the ref. No, the referee was doing his job because if a glove touches the canvas, that is considered a knockdown and he must start his count. So the referee quickly went to Lamont Roach, started the 10 count. Lamont Roach responded, and the fight continued on. But during the 3rd round also, Isaac Cruz was getting so eager because Lamont Roach started to clinch him, trying to get himself back together after getting hurt and wobbled and dropped and knocked down for the first time in his boxing career. And I think there was a time where Isaac Cruz started jumping up and down in the clinch, trying to shoulder bump him, and the referee didn't like it. So I do get the referee giving a point deduction to Isaac Cruz because he was doing things. Plus, he was hitting below the belt line. I think not excessively, but it probably happened once or twice by accident. So I think the referee's patience for Isaac Cruz just it grew tiresome, and he gave him a point deduction. Now, for that point, to defend Isaac Cruz's standpoint, I do believe that the referee should have gave Isaac Cruz a true hard warning and reminding him, if you do it again, I'm giving you a point deduction, rather than just automatically giving him a point deduction. I didn't agree with that, but that happened in the fight, and that really swung me to believe that Lamont Roach won this fight. Based off of the point deduction, based off of Lamont Roach completely winning the second half of the fight other than round 12, that's why I gave the fight 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Lamont Roach to win the fight. But guys, it was a really good fight. Isaac Cruz did have good moments in the fight. I know I talked about a lot about Lamont Roach, but I want to give Isaac Cruz his flowers as well because he came to fight and he came to win. And he had a really good performance. And this reminded me how good of a fighter Isaac Cruz is. I mean, he did have good moments in the fight, did cut the ring off well against Lamont Roach, walking down Lamont Roach, cutting the ring off, making him box off the back foot unless Lamont Roach wanted to step into the fire and engage and stand in the pocket and fight in the inside against Isaac Cruz. Both fighters exchanged well, but Isaac Cruz, man, that's a mean, dangerous fighter when you fight him in the inside. I mean, Isaac Cruz was landing power shots, hooks, uppercuts in the inside, really making Lamont Roach uncomfortable and feeling the power that the pit bull has to offer in that boxing ring. But guys, I'm sorry, my opinion's not going to change. I think Lamont Roach really won this fight. And for someone that has been following Lamont Roach's career, he hasn't been in this type of environment in his boxing career until this year in 2025. Late 2023, he became a world champion for the first time, winning the WBA title against Hector Garcia at 130. Then got his first taste of what it's like to be in a superstar type of atmosphere. fighting Gervonta Davis earlier this year. I'm a big Gervonta Davis fan. Everybody knows that if you follow the podcast. But unbiased aside, I think Lamont Roach defeated Gervonta Davis 115-113, especially if you count the knockdown that should have been scored in that fight between Tank and Roach. I think Lamont Roach won that fight, and I think last night he defeated Cruz. And it's insane that Lamont Roach should have had his hand raised twice in his two biggest fights of his boxing career, only for the judges to corrupt the score, in my opinion, and the fight ending in draws, majority draws. So, good year for Lamont Roach, but also a bad year because two fights that he could have won, two very close fights he could have won, unfortunately didn't go his way, and they were both ruled majority draws. But I do honestly want to get the understanding of how the hell Judge Chris Tellis judged the fight 115-111. You have the best seat in the house, best seat in the world to watch this fight. A very close fight, but you score at 115-111. I do not agree with that score whatsoever. And I don't think a lot of you guys, whether you had Cruz or Roach winning, would agree with that score either. But yes, it was a good fight, just a bad outcome. To close out the segment, do we need a rematch? Absolutely. There should be an automatic rematch between Cruz and Lamont Roach. I think both fighters should put pen to paper to have this fight early 2026 to run it back. It could be a really big PBC event, something that the PBC needs because they didn't have a lot of big events in the calendar year 2025. Really haven't had a lot of big events since signing the Amazon Prime deal. But as I digress, that's a different topic for a different day. I think the rematch is the right direction to go in. It was the best fight on this PBC card to close out 2025. The undercard and the co-main event were uneventful, and both fighters are going to be staying at 140. Why not run it back? I think Cruz has a really strong fan base that really helped build up the rematch. I think Lamont Roach is starting to build up a really good fan base as well. The build-up for the fight would be exciting. I think there would be more explosive fireworks for the rematch. I think both guys would go for the home run hit and get the knockout victory, not leaving it in the judges' hands again in the highly anticipated rematch. I think this would be one hell of a way for the PBC to kick off 2026 with one of the biggest events of the year, having Lamont Roach or Cruz either co-main event or main event a PBC event. I think it'd be one hell of a fight to kick off 2026 for the PBC. Lamont Roach did, and I'll close it off by saying this, Lamont Roach did say he broke his hand in the 5th round of the fight. I don't think he broke his hand. He might have suffered a hand injury, but to have it close in a draw, you can't have any excuses like that. So I'm going to close out the segment by saying that. But those are my thoughts on the fight summary, or that's my fight summary on the fight that took place last night between Cruz and Lamont Roach.